Hey everyone, before we dive in, if you're enjoying these real life stories, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. The day I figured out my parents were repeatedly sneaking into my place wasn't when my world crumbled. It was when I truly saw how extreme they'd get to stay in control. I'd get back home to lights left on that I hadn't touched, meals prepared that I never made, and blankets rumpled as if someone else had been resting there. Every part of the apartment hinted that I wasn't truly by myself. Folks often say families overstep boundaries because they care so much. But what happens when overstepping is the only method they use to keep you close? Because the second I vanished without a trace, that's where the true tale kicked off. I wasn't always so guarded. Back then, I thought setting boundaries was straightforward. You mark one and others honor it. But in my household, a boundary was merely an invitation to cross it. That's probably why, even at 29, I'd tense up whenever my phone buzzed with mom's name on the screen. Or when dad switched to that gentle, guilt-heavy voice he pulled out whenever he hoped I'd given without a fight. As a kid, having any privacy felt like a dream I saw other children live out. My bedroom door could have been transparent for all the good it did. Mom Sarah would barge in any time she felt like it, sometimes singing softly, other times quiet, but always poking around. She'd grab my journals, flip through them, and fire off questions disguised as worry. "You're keeping too many secrets," she'd complain, never once thinking about why I'd want to keep anything private in the first place. Dad Michael stayed out of it. He'd just shrug, mumble about not rocking the boat, and allow her to continue. All the while, my little sister Emma got treated like a princess in a world full of special treatment. No one entered her room without permission. Her clutter was labeled creative chaos. Her slip-ups were just growing pains. Mine were red flags. We lived under two completely different rule books, one easygoing, one smothering. And I always knew which one was mine. So when I eventually got my own one-bedroom spot with views of the Denver city lights, I figured I'd finally stepped into real independence. I picked out my own plates, organized my books exactly how I wanted, and strung up cozy fairy lights that turned nights into something peaceful I'd never really had before. I inhaled differently in that space, calmer, fuller, like my body finally felt safe in the surroundings. But that calm didn't stick around. The first occasion Mom used her key to come in, she played it off as a fun pop-in, hauling bags of groceries I hadn't requested. She grabbed an apron from her bag. Yeah, her bag. And began whipping up dinner as if she'd been counting down the days for it. Dad plopped down on my sofa, saying he was there for the scenery, but his gaze kept wandering to the stack of mail on the table. I convinced myself it was just a mix-up, something she'd back off from once I spelled it out. But talking things through with my mom had never fixed a thing in the past. It sure didn't then. After that came the little intrusions. Jars shifted around. Outfits I hadn't touched in ages ending up in the hamper. A subtle dent in my pillow. Emma borrowing my hoodie without a word. My computer left on with browsers open to sites I hadn't visited. Every single thing was minor on its own, easy to brush off. But piled up, it was like a wave creeping higher around me. I recognized the routine. I'd been through it growing up. And just like in my teen years, Mom labeled it caring. Dad called it safeguarding. And I was expected to accept it as standard. But now, this wasn't their property. It was mine. And somewhere inside, I already knew what I wasn't ready to face. If I didn't put an end to it, they'd claim this space too. One spare key. One justification, one invasion after another. The change crept in gradually, subtle, like cool air sneaking under a window you believed was shut tight. I'd return from my job and spot minor oddities, a cupboard door ajar. Seasonings shuffled. Towels I folded one way now stacked the opposite. Innocent stuff you could ignore. But that's Mom's style, not big outbursts, but gentle nudges that build into forces strong enough to shove you right back where she wanted. One Thursday night, I got home to my fridge completely redone, just like she did back at the family house. Veggies up top, meats in the center, treats hidden way in the back. The quick freeze dinners I'd stocked for hectic days vanished. Instead, there were containers of her homemade soups, sauces, and favorites. Her idea of a perfect setup, not mine. I stood with the door wide open, chill pouring out, and it hit me. This wasn't in my head. I was being controlled. Then there was Emma. She saw my apartment as an extra room in her domain. I'd spot signs of her all over. Makeup stains by the sink, partially drunk iced coffees abandoned, her stuff draped on chairs. When I'd call her out, she'd brush it away with a chuckle. Chill out, Alex. You're treating me like some intruder. She made it sound like I was the one overreacting, like the issue wasn't her ignoring limits, but me insisting on having them. But the breaking point, the one that shattered my last bit of doubt, hit a couple weeks on. I came in after a tough shift, craving quiet, and saw my laptop wide open on the table. Documents I hadn't created on display. Searches I never ran. Tabs I didn't launch. And for good measure, one of my work files paused mid-scroll, like whoever was snooping lost interest partway. My heart raced. I dialed Mom right away. She answered instantly. "Oh, honey, stop overreacting," she replied when I asked if she'd stopped by. "The building manager let me in. I mentioned you weren't responding and I got scared." "Really? You ought to appreciate that we watch out for you." Something in me froze solid. "Mom," I said softly, "you made up a story to enter my place. That's not making up stories. That's caring. You're pushing yourself too much. You shut everyone out. You require help." Help. It sounded like a snare snapping shut. After ending the call, I sank to the floor, leaning on the sofa, absorbing it all. Every childhood flashback rushed in, the rifled diaries, checked messages, followed locations in an overwhelming rush. This wasn't fresh. It was the old habit, back and bolder. The following day, I couldn't concentrate at my job. I set up a counseling appointment over my break. My counselor heard me out, then said kindly, leaning in, "Alex, this goes beyond caring. It's encroachment. These aren't mishaps. They're clear oversteps of limits." It was the initial moment anyone put words to what I'd been afraid to say. "Your living space isn't secure," she continued gently. "Not mentally, not emotionally. You require separation. They can't just override you." I stepped back into the crisp Denver breeze with one idea looping. If I remain here, they won't ever quit. Once that reality sank in, the brutal kind that crashes right into you, I realized sticking around equaled giving up. My counselor's advice rang on. You require separation. They can't just override you. She wasn't suggesting another talk, a sterner voice, or one more failed boundary chat. She meant getaway. Genuine, no traces left separation. So I took a step I'd never pictured. At my small dining table, I fired up my laptop and searched Secure Apartments Denver. Browsing options, it dawned on me how limited my life had felt. I'd long assumed personal space was a luxury for others, but right then, it seemed like a choice I could make. I spotted a high-rise in the city center. Key fob entry, 24-hour front desk, security cams everywhere, elevators needing approval to operate. Somewhere no one could sweet-talk their way in, not even Mom. I booked a viewing for first thing next day. Walking into that lobby, I got it instantly, the soft glow, the low buzz of vents, shiny floors mirroring the skyline. It seemed designed for folks who crave solid barriers as much as open air. The agent took me to a corner apartment with big windows and a secured balcony. I pictured a quiet that was all mine. I put down the deposit before doubt could creep in. The relocation needed to stay hidden. No opening for Mom's guilt trips. No room for Emma to dramatize it. Pure steps forward. Final. Decisive. My friends Lisa and Ben jumped in to assist the instant I mentioned it, arriving late night in sweats and hats like it was a covert op. "Remind me why we're keeping voices low," Ben whispered while sealing cartons. "Because if they appear," I replied quietly, "I might not go through with it." We boxed it all, outfits, novels, pots and pans, silently, carefully. I ditched anything tied too closely to them. Cups Mom got for my benefit, hoodies Emma borrowed till she didn't need them, pictures Dad pushed me to display to cozy it up. Nothing they could lay claim to. Around 2 a.m., the van idled quietly curbside. We hauled my belongings under cover of night. Each hallway run like ticking seconds. As it drove off, I secured the old door final time and mailed the spare key, Mom's former trophy, back to management in an envelope. No note, no new location. At the Fresh Complex, the overnight concierge verified my info, passed me a smooth black access card, and greeted me personally. That tiny act felt like a subtle win. Stepping into the new unit, door latching behind, a clear thought hit. I relocated without a word to them. Not from anger, not rebellion, but because vanishing was the sole path to truly seeing myself. Those initial 3 days in the new spot, I silenced my phone and kept its screen down. I narrowed everything to the building's constant hum, the light pad of my steps on wood, the new ease of knowing all noises here were mine alone. I dozed without startling awake. I prepared food without fretting over who'd tweak my pantry later. It was like fresh air after years without. But calm with my folks never endured. Day for morning, I turned the phone over. Notifications exploded. Tons of calls, urgent messages, voicemails bunched close together. From Mom, Dad, Emma, plus unknowns, probably old neighbors. Alex, pick up now. This isn't a joke. Where are you? We're heading over. Call immediately. Then Emma's online update. My sibling's gone missing. Pray for her safe return. Missing. The twist nearly had me chuckling. But scrolling further, it felt less like worry and more like escalation. I placed it aside, steadying my breath, when an unknown call came. Instinct said answer. Is this Alex Harper? A composed voice inquired. Yes. Officer Lopez, Denver PD. You okay right now? My gut sank, but I sounded calm. I am. We're contacting you since your relatives were part of an event at your previous address. Come to the precinct to confirm some info. I shut my eyes, breathed out. What went down? They tried gaining access to your prior unit, she explained cautiously. Current residents thought it was an attempted burglary. Naturally, they never bothered knocking. I'll be there soon, I replied. Entering the precinct, buzzing lights over waiting seats, faint old coffee smell from the counter area. Staff pointed me to a meeting room, and walking in felt like a jolt. Mom perched at the table, eyeliner runny, tears carving paths down her face. Dad stood close, tense jaw, glancing at the entrance as I showed. Emma stalked the corner, arms crossed, skin splotchy from tears or getting busted, unclear. Seeing me, Mom bolted up, chair scraping loud. Alex, oh God, where were you? We figured something awful happened. Her tone shook, but under it lurked blame, like I'd vanished to hurt her personally. I stayed put. I'm okay, I said evenly. You had no business at my old place. It's not yours anymore, Dad grumbled, like that excused everything. Officer Lopez came in, composed. Everyone take a seat. Mom dabbed eyes theatrically, sinking back, gripping Kleenex. I stood till the officer gestured opposite them. Harper family, she started. We're verifying your status since relatives filed a missing report. I wasn't missing, I stated. I relocated. You relocated? Mom echoed, voice cracking. Without saying anything? Without informing me? That wounded pitch once would have crushed me. Now it rang like an old ploy activating. Yeah, I said plainly. Emma, I rolled. This is absurd, Alex. If you'd mentioned it, we wouldn't be here. Officer Lopez interjected. Back to the incident. Reports say your group tried forcing into an occupied unit. Lies. Mom shot back. We believed Alex was there, trying to rescue her by getting on the balcony. The officer queried neutrally. Emma fidgeted. I lost footing. Not exactly breaking in. Dad massaged his forehead. We panicked. Our kid disappeared. What else could we assume? That you respect her personal space, the officer noted. She's grown. Not showing up isn't illegal. Quiet hung heavy. I drew breath. I left because you kept coming into my home uninvited. Mom turned sharp. We just wanted to assist. You fabricated to the manager, I recalled. Said I seemed off so he'd unlock for you. She winced at fabricated, but bounced back. I was anxious. You went through my stuff. Redid my kitchen. Handed Emma a key. Emma snorted. Big deal. Like I took anything. You took my privacy, I replied. My sanctuary. Officer Lopez clasped hands. Ms. Harper. Care to officially record these issues? Mom inhaled sharp. Record? But she's family. And you're intruders, the officer said steadily. whether meant or not. Those terms struck them deeper than my words. Dad leaned in. Alex, seriously. We messed up, but cops. You brought them in, I said softly. Not me. Mom's mouth quivered. How can you put us through this? I held her gaze. I didn't put you through anything. I just quit allowing you to put me through it. Quiet. Thick. Essential. Officer Lopez pushed a document over. Under these circs, suggest a formal boundary letter. Not restraint, but outlines future conduct. Mom eyed it like poison. I stayed firm. My conditions: no visits to my current residence. Meetings public only. Zero access to my items, profiles, or post, ever. Dad scowled. Harsh. No, I murmured. It's being an adult. Pause. Then, grudgingly, like accepting reality doesn't flex anymore, they inked it. Emma laughed, brows furrowed, realization hitting. As it returned to me, signatures fresh under the lights, a knot in me loosened, one tied tight for ages. Mom murmured, I miss when you relied on us. I collected the sheets. You can remain part of my world, just not inside my walls. Officer Lopez approved with a nod. Leaving the building, chilly Denver wind felt like a fresh start. I sensed something rare, liberty, hard-won, deliberate, absolute. Post-precinct days were eerily serene, like pressure finally eased off me. In the new place, dawns came easy. I'd raised shades, sunlight pouring over wood floors. Assigned this haven, this tranquility was fully mine. No surprise visitors, no shifted jars, no dread of unauthorized entries. They honored the deal. Gatherings in open spots, like a cozy coffee shop by Union Station, compact tables, clear lines. Mom approached cautiously now, like entering shifted territory. Dad spoke less, heard more. Emma, shockingly mellowed. The police humbling her beyond any talk. We didn't fake flawlessness, but they finally viewed my boundaries, inner and outer, as legitimate. Weeks on, I grew into the existence I'd delayed so long. Deeper breaths, sound sleep, living without constant guard. Healing can be subtle, often just the click of a secure lock holding firm. In reflection, my exit wasn't the cruelty they thought. It was me prioritizing myself, no regrets. They're still around, but with room that allows easy air. If you've battled for your personal haven, to feel secure where you live, you're far from alone. Drop your experience below in comments and subscribe for more tales just like this.